Picture a 1970s kitchen. A parent pours Tab into a glass, pans sizzle with early Teflon, and canned soup warms on the stove, each item a symbol of trust in modern convenience. Few suspected cyclamate sweeteners would be banned in 1970, that overheated Teflon hospitalized a New York home cook in 1976, or that the lead solder in cans could quietly contaminate meals for another 2 decades. In the bathroom, a glass thermometer slips from a child's hand. By 1972, one Chicago boy fell ill from mercury vapor, and red dye number 2 vanished from shelves after tumor scares just 4 years later. These were not cautionary tales. These were everyday moments, filled with ordinary products now illegal or vanished for good reasons. What happened in our homes when the things we trusted most turned out to be dangerous? And how did the rules change afterward? Our parents were not careless. They were trusting. We'll see you on the next Rewind. A kitchen in the 1970s promised comfort and modernity. A parent might pour Del Monte peaches into a bowl, Tab Cola fizzing nearby, while the scent of non-stick Teflon pans drifted through the air. These brands stood for progress until the fine print caught up. Cyclamate, the sweetener in Tab and Diet Right, was banned by the FDA in 1969 after studies linked it to bladder tumors in lab rats. Still, cans lingered on shelves, and the taste of artificial sugar clung to daily life. Some people reported headaches and odd symptoms, but for most, it was just another part of the routine. On the stove, Teflon's promise of easy cleanup hit a risk. In 1976, a New York home cook ended up hospitalized after overheated Teflon pans released toxic fumes. Her pet bird died. The EPA would not regulate those chemicals for years, but the warning spread quietly. Never let the pan smoke. Even the cans themselves held danger. Lead solder sealed tins of fruit and vegetables, leaching into food with every meal. The FDA did not fully phase out lead solder until the 1990s, but by the late 1970s, families and doctors were already connecting canned goods to rising lead levels in children. In California, one family landed in court after their child was poisoned by tinned tomatoes. Everyday rituals, pouring a soda, frying an egg, opening a can, felt safe. Trust in brands ran deep, while the hazards stayed hidden, waiting for the rules to catch up. In the bathroom cabinet, a glass thermometer waited in its slender plastic case, ready for the next fever. Every household had one, mercury glinting inside, a symbol of scientific precision. In 1972, a young boy in Chicago accidentally bit down on his thermometer. The glass snapped. Beads of silver spilled onto the sink and the floor, rolling into the grout, vanishing from sight. Within hours, the boy began to tremble. His parents rushed him to the hospital, where doctors recognized the signs of mercury poisoning. Tremors, confusion, and a haunting blankness behind his eyes. He spent weeks recovering, but the memory lingered in the family. Mercury vapor, invisible and odorless, could seep into the air with every break, quietly threatening the nervous system. It took decades for regulators to catch up. By the 1990s, mercury thermometers were phased out, but their legacy still echoes in safety campaigns and strict disposal laws. Color itself wasn't always safe either. Until 1976, red dye number 2 brightened everything from lipsticks to candies, fiery reds and cherry shades that seemed to promise fun. Then a study linked the dye to tumors in lab rats, and the FDA banned it almost overnight. Shelves emptied of favorite treats and cosmetics, and parents started reading ingredient lists with new suspicion. The ban sent ripples through the food and beauty industries, changing the look of childhood snacks and makeup bags for good. Even the smallest household items could carry outsized risks. Our parents weren't careless. They were trusting, believing what the labels promised. We'll see you on the next Rewind. In the garage, the shelves were lined with cans promising a bug-free home and a smoother ride. A father might reach for a Black Flag DDT aerosol, spraying corners and baseboards while the kids played outside. The sharp chemical scent drifted through the open door. DDT was the gold standard for household pest control until the Environmental Protection Agency banned it in 1972, after a California child died from acute poisoning. By then, residue lingered in more than 2/3 of American homes, quietly affecting children's development. Beside the insecticides sat boxes of brake pads, ready for weekend tune-ups. Most were laced with asbestos, a mineral prized for its heat resistance. Mechanics, sometimes just dads in coveralls, would grind and swap out pads, sending invisible fibers into the air. In 1979, a seasoned auto worker testified before Congress, his voice thin from mesothelioma. He traced his illness back to years spent breathing dust in small-town garages. The Environmental Protection Agency would not fully restrict asbestos in brakes until a decade later, but the damage was done. Routine chores, killing bugs, and fixing cars felt like acts of care. The cost, measured in hospital bills and lost years, was hidden in plain sight. Summer afternoons brought the sharp whistle of lawn darts, jarts, sailing across the grass, promising harmless fun. In July 1987, 7-year-old Michelle Snow was struck in the head by a jart in Riverside, California. The dart pierced her skull with a force exceeding 23,000 pounds per square inch. Michelle died in the hospital, and her father, David Snow, channeled his loss into a campaign for change, collecting signatures and urging the Consumer Product Safety Commission to intervene. He was joined by families across the country. By the late 1980s, more than 6,100 emergency room visits had been linked to lawn darts, most involving children. In October 1988, after mounting public pressure, the Commission banned lawn darts outright. Manufacturers recalled the game, and it vanished from store shelves. Other toys carried hidden risks. Clackers, 2 acrylic balls on a string, were recalled in 1976 after reports of shattering balls and injuries, facial cuts, chipped teeth, near misses with eyes. The Commission cited fragmentation upon sudden impact. By the decade's end, clackers disappeared, a casualty of new safety rules and parents' demands for safer play. A child's bedroom in the 1970s glowed with color, cheerful walls, wooden blocks, maybe a Fisher-Price barnyard on the floor. But beneath those bright paints, danger lingered in the very air. Lead-based paint, once prized for its durability and shine, coated millions of homes and toys. No one thought twice as toddlers chewed on crib rails or traced little fingers across windowsills. Yet with every flake and speck of dust, lead seeped into growing bodies. By the mid-1970s, the Centers for Disease Control estimated that over 400,000 children each year had blood lead levels high enough to damage their brains. Some, like a Baltimore toddler in 1976, suffered seizures and permanent loss of skills. Doctors called it encephalopathy, and the courts called it negligence. The harm was slow, invisible, and irreversible. In 1978, the Consumer Product Safety Commission finally banned the manufacture of lead paint for use in homes and on toys. The ban came too late for many, but it changed the future of childhood in America. The walls that once promised safety had, in truth, stolen years from children's lives. Bedtime in the 1970s meant soft, stretchy pajamas, often in bright prints, sometimes with cartoon animals or racing stripes. Parents zipped up their children, kissed foreheads, and left the door open a crack, trusting those cozy pajamas to keep little bodies warm and safe through the night. But for families like the Perkins in Maine, that trust was shattered in a matter of seconds. On a December evening in 1971, 18-month-old Melissa Ann Perkins toddled too close to a portable heater. Her polyester pajamas caught fire, burning with a speed that stunned even the firefighters who responded. The flames raced up the fabric, melting it into her skin. Melissa suffered third-degree burns over nearly half her body and died 2 days later. Stories like hers echoed across the country as emergency rooms treated thousands of children each year for burns from sleepwear that ignited far too easily. The National Fire Protection Association counted over 5,000 pediatric burns annually from pajamas alone. By 1972, the Consumer Product Safety Commission stepped in, introducing strict flammability standards for children's sleepwear. Recalls swept through department stores, and brands like Buster Brown and Health Techs pulled polyester sets from shelves. The rules grew tougher in 1974 and 1975, forcing manufacturers to rethink what safety meant at bedtime. Today, those old pajamas are a memory, one that carries both warmth and a hard lesson. Our parents were not careless, they were trusting. We will see you on the next Rewind. Every rule we follow now, from child-proof caps to flame-resistant pajamas to banned lawn darts, started with ordinary families like ours learning the hard way. Our parents were not careless, they were trusting. That trust shaped a safer world for us, and it still shapes the choices we make today. We will see you on the next Rewind.